Hi, I'm Lisa from PosterMyWall. Welcome to Tiny Marketing Action, Habits that Increase Marketing Success. Our guest today is Pamela Slim. When it comes to marketing, a lot of us know exactly what to do, but we have trouble making the time or the energy to get it done. And that, of course, impacts our business's success. In today's class, Pam is going to share some mindset management techniques that will keep your marketing on track and your business growing. Pam's also created a workbook that goes along with the class, and you'll find a link to download that in the class description. If you're not familiar with Pam, she is an author and a business coach. She is also, with her husband Daryl, the co-founder of the K Community Lab in Mesa, Arizona. Pam's latest book is The Widest Net, which delivers a system for business growth based on customer relationships. If you stick with us until the end of today's training, we have a promo code for a discount on PosterMyWall. Also, Pam has created 6 special Tiny Marketing Action recipe books for you to download and use. They're full of all kinds of ideas, so please do check them out. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Pamela Slim, and welcome back to my Tiny Marketing Action series. I hope you've been following along so far. We looked at tiny marketing action recipes, those very easy to follow, small, consistent things that you can do in order to connect with your ideal clients and customers. We looked at the bigger picture of how it is that you can select tiny marketing actions given the strategic design of your marketing and your business. And today I really want to be talking about the habits that you develop. Tiny marketing actions are really habits like drinking more water or getting in more steps and walking that have the same kind of behavioral and psychological components to them, like any other kind of habit that you want to change in your life. So, in order for you to be effective with your marketing and in order for you to be consistent in taking action, let's look a little bit at the science about the habit behavior, as well as things to do if what I call your marketing monsters get in the way. It is so normal, like any other thing that we try, to begin to get excited, take some action, begin to move forward, and then all of a sudden to get stuck. And then generally, what we do is we beat ourselves up. We get very frustrated. We say, I knew it. Marketing doesn't work. I'm always going to be struggling with cash flow. And we end up in a really negative situation. To avoid that, we have to know how to recognize the kind of defeating thoughts that come up along for us trying to change our habits, and we need specific tactics to overcome them. So that's what we're going to be digging into today. Let's get started. All right, so making marketing habit shifts. What is good about this for you to know is these same kinds of thoughts and design principles that work for changing your marketing habits will also work when you're trying to change other habits. If you want to learn Spanish, or you want to drink more water, or you want to take more steps, or you want to build a stronger relationship with your partner or your spouse, these are all things that you can do by implementing this science of habits. So pay attention and notice the other ways that you can use this in other parts of your life. One of my favorite books on habit change is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it is really based on this principle that your outcomes are the lagging indicators of your habits. One of the things that I always look at when I'm coming into a business new as a business coach is asking some questions about, given what's happening in their current situation. Maybe they're like, oh, I really need more customers, or I'm not closing business. I might ask them questions about what they were doing 4 or 5 months ago. And very often, if somebody is in a bit of a dip where there's not a lot going on, or they're worried about not having new customers, if we look back, we notice the things that they either did or didn't do about 4 or 5 months back. And so part of understanding the fact that where we want to see outcomes that are this lagging indicator, we see the outcomes after we do something consistently over a period of time. We start to have less headaches, for example, after we have spent a month or two drinking maybe twice as much water as we ever drank before. We begin to feel more energy and momentum if we're going for a short 20-minute walk every morning, you're not immediately going to feel it. It's going to be this lagging indicator. So the same exact thing is true for tiny marketing actions. And when we look at how it is that we can put certain habits in place to lead us where we want to go, which does require patience, that I know is hard, especially if you're struggling with cash flow right now. There is amazing research in atomic habits, and this comes from that says that according to the research, if you improve where you're 1% better every day, let's look at it in the context of tiny marketing actions. If every day you do 1% more, 1% better at taking consistent habits, following tiny marketing action recipes, zeroing in and connecting with people who are in your ideal audience to drive referrals and partnerships and awareness, that at the end of a year, you are going to have 37 times the result uh, that you would had you not done those habits. I don't mean 37% different, it's 37 times. So it absolutely stacks up. We can begin to see how powerful and important it is when we are really taking these 1% changes every day. And that's why the science of habits are really so important. So as we look at what it takes to create a new habit, instead of only marketing when we're totally desperate and we have nobody coming through the door, and then we run through the streets handing out flyers or whatever we do when we're panicked. We want to look at ways that we can set up our environment for success, simplify our actions, and then do things to really fix our thinking in the times where we get stuck for changing the habit. All right, so for your environment, your physical environment can be a really important part of designing the kind of outcomes that you want. And I know for tiny marketing actions, through the years, I've taught hundreds of people the methodology. I wrote about it in my latest book called The Widest Net. And I've studied it with so many clients that I've implemented it with. And one of the things that inhibits people from taking action is just where their environment is not set up and designed to encourage the kind of behavior that they want to take. So, for example, if you are in an office that is absolutely covered with papers, where your email box might be just a total disaster and you have no categories for things, it's totally out of control, you don't even look at it, that can be an indicator that it's going to be much harder to take a tiny marketing action if you're not organized. So what some people do when they begin to track and set things up is first just clean things out. Clean, organized, clean up your desktop, get some organized physical space within your office so that when you're making then decisions about the kinds of tiny marketing actions that you want to take, you have things that are organized in order for you to take action. And for some of it, you also want to be tracking and making sure that you are paying attention to if you are actually doing a tiny marketing action or not. This is part of what the example is of, for those people sometimes that I work with that might be more artistically inclined, where they're not necessarily excited about using spreadsheets to track their activity. This was an example that one of my artist clients did, where she preferred to have like colored marbles, or I think she used like bouncy colored balls, where every time she took an action, she would transfer it from one glass jar into another. And so this way, visually, she could see in her environment how it is that she was making progress. That was part of increasing her motivation for taking tiny marketing actions. For some of you who love spreadsheets, you could be excited maybe to set a target and to know as you're maybe logging your actions every day or every week, you notice that you're always hitting your green zone, for example. Maybe you have a goal of 7 tiny marketing actions a week, and you notice week in and week out that you're hitting your goal. That could be part of what can really give you that positive momentum in your environment. So the things to pay attention to is make sure that you are clear and organized so that you have the tools and resources you need. And then you think about tracking tiny marketing actions in a way that is actually motivating for you. All right, the other thing that happens in the pursuit of changing your habits is that a lot of things get in the way. I love the metaphor of a bus. It was a concept. Jim Collins, many years ago, wrote a book called Good to Great, studying great companies. And he would often say, using the metaphor of you and your business, like who's on your bus? Who's in your bus, in which order, and who is driving the bus? Sometimes we do not feel like we're driving the bus of our business. We're just completely at the whim of our clients. We don't know where we're going. We have no strategic plan. And so that is something that is really important for you to recognize, that you need to really have things very organized. Um, and so that you're aware of any kind of distraction that comes up. You have the right resources in the right place. You might have helpful people, mentors who are there to encourage you along. This is a way that you can make sure that you stay on in good habits. So early in the very first class in this series, I was introducing this idea of marketing monsters and the different zones and ways that we can really get distracted. So today I want to give you some solutions if you recognize yourself, or as you've been experimenting with tiny marketing actions, if you have recognized yourself in one of those marketing monsters. So we'll look at mental distraction, which is I let work overwhelm and lead me. Emotional distraction, I let my feelings lead me on a given day. Knowledge distraction, I let my thoughts on how I should perform lead me, recipe for disaster. Or systems distraction, I let the dazzling array and promise of tools lead me, always looking for that perfect mythological time in which you're so organized that your business just runs itself. I have yet to see it, so that's what you want to pay attention to. All right. So, in the case where you feel that you are always mentally distracted, you're a busy bee, you're overwhelmed, you're chasing squirrels, I call it 2 bags full of groceries, you're just carrying too much stuff all the time. Here is what to do about it: stop, drop, and organize. This is where you might want to sit down away from your computer. You can have a piece of paper or, some kind of electronic tablet if you want to. You want to take a nice deep breath and get quiet, and then list out everything that's in your head. It could be errands, conversations, project work items. When you feel overwhelmed with mental distraction, it's critical just to get everything out in one place. Then you could scan and circle the items that you know are actually realistic to accomplish that day. You can look at the other list of remaining items and you can tell them, I actually talk to my to-do list sometimes, and you can say, I promise I'm going to get you tomorrow. We often overestimate what we can get done, and then we end up feeling totally overwhelmed and never satisfied. It's a terrible way to live. So be realistic. And once you get everything out of your head and you get clear as to what you can actually accomplish, now you can begin to create your short list of action items, including at least one tiny marketing action, and begin to get busy. So that's when you notice you have a desire to change. You start out first couple of weeks, you're doing really good, taking tiny marketing actions, and all of a sudden you begin to get overwhelmed. That's where you want to stop, drop, and organize. All right. Emotional distraction. This is one that's a huge deal. I will never tell you that you don't have a right to feel. I want you to feel all your feelings. But notice after you had that chance to really express, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. Then if you let yourself stay in that emotional state, you can never get out of it. You can drag yourself down an entire day and never get anything done. So where that's the case, where you have some of these marketing monsters, you're drowning in guilt and shame, you need to examine your thinking. So here's the specific answer to that. You want to sit quietly in a comfortable place. You want to tune into your body, notice what the feeling is, write it down in as specific terms possible. I feel stressed and anxious. My stomach is like really churning because I know I have this huge project that I have not completed and it's stressing me out. Or, like the example I give here, I feel a sense of anxiety and dread when I go to complete this tiny marketing action. My stomach feels tight, my chest is constricted, and the thought in my mind right now is, what if the person I'm sending this message to thinks I'm a slimy salesperson? And what if they reject my request? That is a very common fear as talking to people who are doing tiny marketing actions. So if you write it down, see if you can do a turnaround and change that thought to something that feels more empowering. So instead of that, you could think, I am reaching out to people I admire because I am passionate about getting my work into the world. If it is not a fit for them, that is perfectly okay. I owe it to my work to make an effort to be seen and heard. Their reaction is none of my business. I believe this to be very true. Experiment with this when you're feeling really anxious. When you turn your thought around to something that feels more truthful and empowering, it generally totally quells, if not makes that negative feeling disappear. This is the way that you're going to begin to make positive habit change. All right. The third kind of momentum killer for change of habits is knowledge distraction or perfectionism. So this is where you might, just like get exhausted by reaching out to people. Maybe you have the wrong kinds of TMAs where you're more of an introvert and you're just doing all kinds of things to constantly be in connection with people. That'll be very draining for you. So if these are the kinds of marketing monsters that you're struggling with, then you want to make sure that you are practicing beginner mind. And that is where you give yourself a break for not having to be perfect with something that is a new habit. So you could sit down with your desired tiny marketing action recipe in front of you, and you could rate it with high, medium, or low in terms of your experience level for doing it. Let's say you're reaching out to set up a 15-minute conversation with somebody who's a peanut butter and jelly partner. You're a painter, you have a painting business, and you want to reach out and talk to a landscaper that you've heard good things about from your customers. So the first time you do it, you're like, oh, I've never done this. I feel kind of awkward. And so you might say low, like I don't really have a lot of experience doing it. If it's high, then you can challenge yourself with a thought. When practicing this tiny marketing action, what's a way I can bring something new and fresh to it? Reinforce with a growth mindset thought, I'm going to train my brain. Growth mindset is a great concept by an author named Carol Dweck, who wrote a book called Mindset. She also has a great TED Talk that you can Google if you just put in the word mindset TED Talk. And the whole idea behind growth mindset is that you're really challenging yourself to realize that you can grow, you can improve, and don't get stuck thinking that you're perfect. So if you do something well, you're getting a little bored with it, challenge yourself to grow in some way. If you have a medium level of experience with a tiny marketing action, challenge yourself with this thought. When practicing this tiny marketing action, I will remember to have fun creating something familiar. Reinforce this with a growth mindset thought, I can always improve. So that can really help you to strengthen and solidify something you do well. And if it's brand new to you, if you've never done it before, painter reaching out to landscaper for the first time and you feel awkward, you can challenge yourself with a thought. When practicing this tiny marketing action, I will look at it as a learning experience. I do not need to do it perfectly. And then reinforce this with a growth mindset thought. Mistakes help me learn. So these are ways that you can really ensure that you are helping yourself to not let one of these blocks, one of these marketing monsters, get in the way of you changing your habits. And it's so critical that you make sure that you're taking these actions so that you don't really stop all of your momentum. The final kind of distraction that comes up is systems distraction, where you're just overwhelmed with all the tools and everything feels overwhelming. That's where you might want to get a thought partner. So you can list all the different obstacles that are keeping you from marketing your business. Maybe you feel overwhelmed or scattered. You don't know how to make a decision. So you can like list all the questions that you have. And then you can look in your circle of smart friends, connections, and reach out and ask them, like, what's your most important consideration for this issue? There can be somebody who's an expert for a decision that you're absolutely struggling with is a really simple thing for them to figure out. So this is where you need other people to help you. And the other thing that you need is to create some decision criteria for how you're going to make a decision about something. I spend a lot of my time as a business coach telling people, you know what, you don't need to worry about that right now. Maybe down the road when you have 1,000 customers, you want to have a super complex customer relationship management tool. Right now, you're totally fine with a spreadsheet. So that's an example of talking to somebody who's maybe had the experience can give you the criteria for how it is that you can make a decision and say, until I get to this stage of business, I'm not going to worry about the more advanced, expensive tools, for example. Once you do that, you have the criteria, set a deadline for making a decision, make the decision, and then implement it. So these are the ways that you can start to gather some positive momentum. When the thoughts come up that are problematic, that will help. The final piece that makes everything real, if you are like me and you live in your calendar, is to put it in your calendar. So you can block off, in this case, tiny marketing action time, so you can fit it in. If you like to use simple tracking tools, you can be listing your goals that you have in the kinds of tiny marketing actions that you'll take so that you make sure you have an easy place to look at them. You notice that you've gone to just becoming familiar with a tiny marketing action to being more strategic about the kinds of tiny marketing actions you use. And now this final frontier is in making sure that you operationalize it and you make it really simple and easy to implement. Remember that structure supports progress. And when you practice these little tiny actions on a regular basis, you're really going to start to notice the difference. So trust yourself, utilize the tools that we have shared, workbooks, recipe books in these classes, and I wish you all the success in marketing your business.
We hope Pam has inspired you to turn marketing into a business building habit. This class is part 3 of a 3-part series. So if you want to watch parts 1 and 2, there is a link to those in the class description. Also in the class description, if you're interested in working with Pam directly on one of her 6-week Tiny Marketing Action workshops, there is a link to learn more about that too. If you'd like to try out PosterMyWall, the design and marketing app designed for small business, use promo code MAXIMIZE30. Code is good for 30 days from today and it'll give you 30% off on a monthly or annual subscription. Please share this video with your marketer colleagues. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more easy to implement marketing tips. Thank you so much for watching.